With the end of the Omniverse nearby, what do our heroes do with their last days? This is our continuation of Death Metal, right here at the Comicstorian channel, where you can find the latest comic books, single issues, or trade paperbacks, and we break them down into digestible bites to allow you to understand what is going on, so I can read it dramatically back to you, and you can go to the local comic book store and find the latest issue. When we last left off with Death Metal, our heroes were preparing for the final fight. They were all standing on the Prime Earth as the One Who Laughs has created a bunch of evil Earths to come and battle against them. But today's episode actually isn't about that fight. It's about a couple of the tie-ins and then the 6th issue. You see, if you knew you were going to die potentially, what would be one of the last things that you do? Today we're going to be covering Dark Knight's Death Metal, Secret Origin of Superboy Prime, an event that takes place right before the final battle begins. We'll then be covering Dark Knight's Death Metal, The Last Stories, which is what a lot of your favorite superheroes are doing right before they arrived at the last fight. So let's go ahead and tell you the important tie-ins so that you can fully understand what is actually going on here. Starting off with Dark Knight's Death Metal, Secret Origin. Earth Prime, 1984. A young Clark Kent sits in a convenience store reading the latest issue of Superman. In this world, Clark Kent isn't Superman. He's just another young teen living in a world where the only superheroes are the ones that come out of the comics. And very much like Superman, he too was adopted. He was found in a field abandoned. It always made him feel unwanted. But he had Superman. He always had Superman. Until Superman betrayed him. However, as Clark sits and reads his comic book, Kenny Braveman tells him that he knows the toll for coming in here, and it's time for him to pay up. Clark tells him that he can't. The only bit of money that he does have is to buy a comic, and he isn't giving it to them. Kenny laughs looking at the comic. Superman is lame, and he takes the comic and he rips it in half. The rest of Kenny's friends begin to gang up on Clark Kent, when suddenly Kenny has a drink thrown at him. Lori, the store owner's daughter, tells them to get out of there. They're banned for life for destroying merchandise. She picks Clark back up, telling him that he was pretty brave to stand up to Kenny like that. And that is when everything changed. Clark and Lori began to see each other more, going out on dates, and really thinking about their future together. So when Halloween came around, Clark and Lori dressed up as Superboy and his mermaid girlfriend Lori. The two went to Hamilton Beach for the party, and while there, something was pulling at the back of Clark's mind. Like something was calling him. He closed his eyes and he began to run. And then he jumped, and he fell flat on his face. Lori helped him up, stating that it was a nice try, and the two go back towards the rest of the group. But then they see a shooting star, and Lori tells him, "Make a wish, Clark." Seconds later, Clark begins to fly into the city, where he is met by the real Superman. To anyone else, this would seem strange, but not to Clark. He's read about an infinite number of parallel Earths in the comic books that he's read. Everything that he's read about, it all turns out to be real. Superman tells him that they need his help as the multiverse is collapsing into a single universe. The only thing is, this Clark, he never got to say goodbye. He wasn't there when Lori died, or his parents, or his friends, and when the adventure was over, they were all gone. Clark tried to accept it, but it was difficult. And when there was a chance to bring Lori and everyone back years later, he had to try. He was in such pain that he lashed out and he became a monster. To the others, he became known as Superboy Prime, or now just commonly called Prime. The Batman Who Laughs is doing what a bunch of other villains tried to do: remake the entire multiverse in his own vision. It felt like Prime already knew this story, like he'd already read about it, so maybe that's why he understood things a bit different than the others. Though it still didn't help, since everything in this universe was turned upside down and jumbled together like the greatest and worst hits album. The worst part about it is that he doesn't care anymore. Everyone dies and comes back. Even he has killed a few himself, and they all got rebooted. So what does it matter? What does anything matter anymore? The heroes don't want him there, the bad guys don't want him there, so what is the point of Prime? And as Prime sits awaiting the coming battle with everyone else who arrived at the final battle at the edge of the multiverse, he hears a bark. Krypto sits in front of him and Prime asks, what does he want? "You stupid dog." Krypto barks again and Prime reaches out, petting him. Prime smiles as he remembers the first story about Krypto. Just then, Connor calls out asking what is he doing, and Prime yells back that he wasn't doing anything. "Your dumb dog came over here." A flying dog with a cape. How stupid could you? But before he could finish, there's a rumble signaling the beginning of the end. The Batman God created 52 worlds, and he filled them with other Supermen designed to destroy this group. But what they didn't realize was that Prime wasn't like the other Supermen. He was the most dangerous. So the evil Supermen attacked him, all spouting off the same thing as every other villain does. They tell him that he's beneath them, that they are from the future, and everyone here, especially whoever it is that they are fighting, is barely a footnote in their history. Prime punches one of the Supermen because it doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. And then something happens. As Prime hits him, he sees something. An image of that Superman's world, and it changes. Why? What did he just do? Prime flies up into Earth's orbit to see the other 52 worlds that the Batman Who Laughs created and thinks that maybe he could use these. Could he change all of these if he kills the monster? He crashes into the projection of the Batman Who Laughs with an earth-shattering boom. And again he sees something, a world, his world, and Laurie. They were happy. They had a child. And then it all fades and it's replaced with screams, pain, and anger. Where is that Bat guy hiding? The Batman Who Laughs in the shadows, stating that there is more to him than one would think. You're a funny one. Prime punches into him while focusing his heat vision, telling him, go ahead, laugh at me. You've overstayed your welcome. The Batman Who Laughs tells him, oh no, I'm not going anywhere. However, I can't say the same for you. Prime swings with another booming punch, telling him, I said laugh. The Batman Who Laughs chuckles, telling him that he'd never laugh at him. What he meant by funny was that the two of them aren't so different. Prime yells, we are different. I tried to do the right thing. And the Batman Who Laughs knocks Prime back, telling him, you could have anything. All you'd have to do is stand aside. Wouldn't that be a waste of energy killing me? Prime charges in, punching the Batman Who Laughs one more time, putting all of his strength into it, shaking the very foundation of the universe. And he won. The Batman Who Laughs' power, he could take it. He could take it and destroy all of this and rebuild his own world. He'd have Laurie back, but why would it matter? Everyone hates him, so he can hate back. And then there's a bark. Krypto stares and Prime asks, what is he doing? Get out of here, you stupid mutt, go. Krypto sits beside him, and the Batman Who Laughs tells him, we can't destroy each other, so let me help. One of these worlds could be yours. All the people down there fighting, they aren't worth it, Prime. Join the army of Supermen. You can have what you've been so desperately wanting. Prime can see it. A world where he is loved and respected by everyone. Where he is a hero again, the kind that he always wanted to be. But his parents wouldn't be there. And neither would Laurie. So Prime tells Krypto to go, and he closes his hand one last time. All that anger, all that rage, concentrated, focused onto one point, and Prime let his dreams go. Everything begins to shatter, and the reality of what could breaks. The shockwave travels down to Earth where everyone is fighting, and they all begin to see the evil world disappearing. Supergirl asks who was that? They gave them a fighting chance, and Cyborg Superman tells her whoever it was is dead. No one will ever know who it was that gave them the fighting chance except Krypto. And Krypto howls over the lifeless body of Superboy Prime as everything begins to fade, and Clark blinks his eyes, reading the comic, asking, wait, what's going on? I was fighting in this comic. Is it about me? At that moment, Laurie knocks, asking if he wants to get some lunch at the diner. And Clark is surprised. You can't be here. Laurie tells him, right. You want to be left alone to read. Forgot it was Wednesday. Or do they come out on Tuesdays now? Clark stares at the comics and he puts it down, stating, we should be outside. I don't need to finish this one. Laurie laughs. Okay, let's bring the dog. Clark is surprised. Dog? I don't have a... But at that moment, a dog very similar to Krypto runs into the room, barking. Clark pets him, telling him good boy. And as the two go out, Clark asks Laurie if she remembers much from the night on the beach. And she asks how couldn't she? He tried flying into the sky and he fell on his face. You're the Clark Kent without powers, remember? The two laugh, and as they head up to the sidewalk, a child chases his ball into the street right in front of an oncoming car, and without a second thought, this Clark begins to try and save that child. Laurie yells at him asking what is he doing, and he tells himself that he's trying, even if he doesn't have powers, even if he's not. Oh, he lifts the car above his head and he turns to her. Maybe my story isn't over. I guess they never really are. But maybe you should go outside for a walk too. And that was Superboy Prime's participation in the final battle. He got his own issue for his offense. All the other superheroes get lumped into a different book that we're going to be covering very soon, but what were the superheroes doing before they went to that final fight? This is Dark Knight's Death Metal, The Last Stories. Once a hellscape, formerly known as the Paradise of Themyscira, Donna Troy sits on the beaches tracing her finger in the sand. But then she hears a voice asking why she's alone. She looks over to see Beast Boy, who tells her that this is the same beach that Steve Trevor washed up onto when his plane crashed. When she was Wonder Girl, she too came here hoping something would wash up that would change her life. Beast Boy laughs. Haha, I'm here now. Problem solved. I'm still allowed to joke even if it's the end of the world, right? Donna goes on telling him that even if this is their last night together, tomorrow is going to be the greatest fight of their lives. She still would like to make one last wish. And after what Diana said, she's worried. The Justice League lost. Wonder Woman lost. The Batman Who Laughs remade their world into this nightmare. And now the Batman Who Laughs fights with Perpetua over which one of them will finish the job. Donna gets up. It's a lot to take in. We've seen so much, but never a crisis of this scale. How do we know if we're ready for a war like this? Beast Boy laughs. Yeah, about that, we have all the Titans of the party. After Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman told everyone the plan, people started to show up. And it's not everyone who was in the Titans, but he'd like to think that they're here in spirit. The two walk over to the field to see the Titans who have ever been. And Beast Boy says, even Robin's new kids are crashing. Though I'm not sure if they count. Donna tells him of course they do. Maybe they're just drawn to each other. That's how it's always been with the Titans. Being a Teen Titan or a Titan was more than just a name. If you were young and hoping to make a difference in the world, you were always welcome in Titan's Tower. As Beast Boy runs off to talk to a few people who showed up, Donna smiles, stating that she knows a pair of troublemakers when she sees them. Garth laughs. Ha! Look who I found leasing the Justice League on a do-or-die mission. Donna says that the word around New Apocalypse was that he was riding a horse in a new costume, and Nightwing responds, yeah, me, Starfire, and Cyborg all changed back the moment we stepped foot in Themyscira. But I have to go. Batman called a meeting, and there's something else that I need to take care of. However, as Nightwing leaves, there's a bolt of lightning that strikes down in the middle of the crowd, setting a tense mood for everyone, and Donna asks why is everyone, but at that moment, through the smoke, Wally West stands up. Everyone stares as Wally waits, and the first to move is Donna. He says that he knows that he's not welcome here and he understands that. They have every right to be angry at him after everything he did, but he had to tell them before Wally could speak, Donna hugs him. It's okay. You don't have to say it. We know. However, the feeling of dread washes over everyone and their hope fades. Donna smiles to herself, telling everyone that the Justice League couldn't hack it as Teen Titans. Ever since they were kids, they've gone up against the same challenges the Justice League did, sometimes worse, and now they're on the eve of the greatest battle of their lives. They are standing around doing what? Feeling sorry for themselves? Cowering in fear? Think about how much the universe has put them through. How many times has it tried to kill them or bury them? There are days it feels like it hates them, but the Titans came back every time. Because no matter, when you fight one Titan, you fight all the Titans. But as Donna gives her speech, Garth stops for a moment, telling Donna that she needs to see this. Everyone looks over to see Batman calling out. The blackest night falls from the skies. The darkness grows as all light dies. We crave your hearts and your demise. By my black hand, the dead shall rise. From that, a dead Roy Harper pulls himself out of the ground, and he walks over asking, did you guys think I was gonna miss the big fight? After all the hell that I've been through? I'm one of your best chances at winning this thing. You'd all be goners without me. Wally looks over at Roy, and as Roy looks back, he tips his hat. Donna tells everyone a war is coming, and the Batman Who Laughs new multiverse will be here soon. And she knows that they are ready. She made a wish on the beach earlier. They aren't just teams. This has made them into families. And if this has to be their last night, there is only one thing that she'd wish for, and that is for them to be together. The battle ahead will be hard. But whatever happens, they're never alone. The next story is Last Nights. Through all the destruction, Hal Jordan is a little shook to see his father's grave intact. The world has become so twisted, so damned upside down, that he wasn't sure Coast City was even still here, let alone his dad. Everyone is off focusing on their own preparations, and if this is going to be his last night in this world, then there is one thing that he'd want: to just fly. Perhaps it's selfish, but he just needed to feel this one last time. The freedom, the weightlessness, no cares, no fear. Up in the big blue sky, there is nothing holding him back. Maybe the last thing Dad remembered was that freedom. But he knows that the last thing his dad ever felt was actually fear. Dad learned that everyone who flies eventually falls, and a few moments later, Hal flies over the Valley of the Rainbow Rings, thinking that he just wanted to fly so high that he could see the stars. And when it's his turn to fall, will there be any monuments, any markers, or will there be only darkness? A voice calls out stating that he didn't expect to see him here. After all, this may be his last night. Hal charges up his ring as he looks at Sinestro asking, "What do you want?" And Sinestro tells him, "Easy, we're on the same side, remember, at least for this day. But this whole affair, it feels different, doesn't it? It's truly final. I thought maybe." Hal glares asking, "What? Oh, you want to... Are you kidding? After everything you've done, all the pain that you've caused?" Sinestro looks at his ring, stating, "It's how I started, after all." Hal tells him, "No, you don't deserve it." And Sinestro looks at his ring, telling him, "No, I suppose not. Or maybe you're right. Maybe a little fear is what we'll need tomorrow." Until then, Hal watches as Sinestro sulks walking away and thinks to himself that maybe in the end, you see what you choose to see, what your heart wants most. Maybe his dad did see the blue sky. Maybe he needs to believe that. And at that moment, a Green Lantern ring lifts from the pile, and Hal guides it over, stating, "It's never too late for another chance. I, of all people, should know that. All you've got to do is say the words." Sinestro takes the ring in hand, and he begins to say the mantra. "In the brightest day, in the blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light." As the green glow fades, Sinestro says that he'd forgotten how it felt to not be afraid. "You won't say thank you." Hal looks up. "I wouldn't ask you to, but there is something I need you to help me out with. Let's see if there's any blue left up there." The next story is The Question. Diana stood on the twisted ground her sisters once called sacred, over the remains of her enemy, as she has done so many times before. But this time, she felt nothing. She stands out in the field, Hippolyta telling her that she did what she had to, and now she must prepare to pull all of her heart's strength for this one final task. She did what she thought would end all of this. And Diana asks, "Is that what I did?" Hippolyta says that Batman's plan, but Diana stops her, telling her that she will not fight for the salvation of a few. She threw down her sword when she saw it was the only thing standing between him and the slaughter of all of her sisters. As Diana leaves, she hears a voice calling out to her, and the Riddler steps out of the shadows, telling her, "It's been too long," which is to say that it's been a long, long time, which is to say that we never talk. "But I do have a question." Diana asks, what is he doing, hiding in his cell when he's been freed? She's not as warded now. Riddler laughs. "That's not true. This cell might be the safest place for a nice guy like me, instead of charging into certain death, which is by far a worse sentence. But back to my question. What do you call a creature whose greatest strength is their weakness? Someone who can never win and never lose. A person who must fight for justice, but brings an end to justice." Diana stares, and without giving any time, she gives up. Riddler yells, "A Wonder Woman! Of course you never give up. You're always ready to fight." And with that, Diana leaves. She tells herself that she isn't ready, that her strength was that she was the universe's greatest warrior. Is it that when she killed the Batman who laughed, she felt nothing because there is no victory? How can she fight when she feels nothing? A voice tells her, because she's Wonder Woman. Donna Troy steps through the fog, and Diana asks if that's her. She says one of them. Her world was a pit stop of destruction for the Batman who laughs. They weren't ready. She wasn't ready. When the planet died, she felt everything inside of her collapsing, like she'd folded up on herself, smoothed out all of her edges until she was nothing. But she knows that they're all embedded inside of her, every lost, every soul incinerated when the fight between the Batman who laughs and Perpetua set the planets in the multiverse aflame one by one. It's who they are, it's what makes them superheroes. Batman has his own personal torture, but for her, The pain that sears her soul, it's the pain of all suffering. For every crushed soul, that's what she gets. And when the time comes, she'll feel it all. The pain that drives them, that makes victory the only option. That is who they are. So a short while later, Diana returns and her sisters ask if she is ready for the upcoming battle. She places her hand on her chest and she tells them yes, she is. The next story is called The Dust of a Distant Storm. Up on a building overlooking Themyscira, Ollie and Diana look down at the rubble with Ollie asking, "Shouldn't the sun be up by now?" Diana tells him that in the morning, they fight a fight that they cannot win. Let dawn sleep. Ollie says that he's not ready to concede the election yet. They did their best, though everything they did. Any regrets? Diana thinks for a moment and says she would have liked to have an oath. Just something cool that they could say when suiting you. Was always slightly jealous of the lanterns, to be honest. Diana then asks him, "What about you?" Ollie pauses for a moment and then says, "Actually, you'd laugh, but I kinda wish we had a real first date. We went from intense dislike to boudoir in no time flat." He then jumps down the hill telling her that he has an idea. He owes her a proper date. Regrets be damned. So after a little bit of scouting, he managed to find these. They're essentially an Amazon sea ration, but she looks at the wall of rationed food and states that she's impressed. She pops the top of the vial and drinks it, and then immediately coughs it back up, stating that it tastes like battery acid and pee. But as Ollie looks, he looks past Dinah, asking what are those. Just then, two giant Joker sharks jump out of the water and the two begin to run while Ollie yells, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry!" Dinah turns back to blast them away, asking if he planned this date to have Joker mechs. And Ollie says that he may have forgotten about those, but this just makes him want to ask for a once-in-a-lifetime favor. For the life that they were supposed to live, will she stay behind with him in the morning? Dinah says that he knows the answer to that, and Ollie tells her, "Yeah, I'm a lousy first date, so let's tackle the other regret. Maybe a little rough, but I'm the wall, I'm the shield, and I do not run. I see the evil coming towards you, and I do not run. I stand between you and the darkness, and I do not run." That's it. That's the oath. Dinah pauses for a moment, stating that she thought he was about to get on one knee, but Ollie asks, "Is that really bad?" And Dinah tells him yes. Here, yes. When the man that she loves asks her to marry him, she'd want it to be in a place of hope, where all the options in the world are available and he'd still choose her. Ollie leans in, stating that he guesses it's a good thing that he wasn't thinking that then, huh? But at that moment, a voice calls out that they're sorry to interrupt, but they've been looking for them. The two quickly get into defensive stances asking who this person is, and the young girl in a green hood says that she came from one of the worlds that got, well, you know. Ollie tells her that it's okay, what's her name, and the girl pulls down her hood, showing her face, stating that she goes by Black Arrow. But her real name is Laurel Lance Queen. Ollie and Dinah stare for a moment and ask, "That's our..." Laurel says that she doesn't want anything from them. Her parents are gone, her family is gone, she just wanted to meet them. Ollie tells her it's okay. Let's get a good look at you. You have your mother's eyes. Canary eyes. But that's when she laughs and tells him that on her Earth, their roles were different, like backwards. Ollie turns back telling Dinah to come look. She's practically there, and Dinah says that she knows what she practically is. Hi. Laurel laughs, stating that she's going to fight with them. There's nothing they can do to stop her. Dinah tells her that she knows. She will be there under his wing, so stay close. And this is for all of them. Dinah recites the oath that Ollie gave her, and then hugs Laurel, stating thank you for reminding her what they're fighting for. The sun is coming up. They should all go get ready. And as the girls leave, Ollie reaches into his pocket, taking out a ring, and he quietly says, "Ah, well, regrets be damned." The next story is Whaleful. Along the coast while everyone gathers, Aquaman does not. He sits perched on his rock as the tides come in. The last place that he'd ever want to be on is dry land, especially on the eve of his death. Nor would he have asked that he be burdened with his thoughts, or the people that they have worked to save from this nightmare that has swallowed everything. In their eyes, he is the admiral of the Black Fleet, a traitor, a collaborator with the destroyers of all that hold dear. He cannot argue, he cannot blame them. He has been those things for far too long, for reasons that he can only hope that they will one day understand, and so he returns to the depths. He journeys down below into the darkness, now standing against the Black Fleet. He never thought about dying, now that's all he can think of, but he still does not regard it with fear or anger or sadness. For two worlds that share so much, they are still eternally divided over so many things. For them down here, there is no end to life. The currents roll infinitely, never ceasing, merely unseen deep below the surface. The old give up their place to the new. The predators feed. The prey can only run for so long, and each piece fulfills that part. Even the kings who rule over their domain will fall. They are only given so many days. Their efforts are finite. For those above, it is darkness, an enemy more monstrous than anything the Dark Knight is bringing back from his dark world. The deal he made with Baphomet was to protect the sea and all of those who dwell within, and to preserve the world above to keep their people as safe as he can ensure. The land dwellers fear death more than anything because they know how easily it can come for them all. Cast aside, buried in the earth in a purchased box, remembered only by those who survive until they succumb as well. Down here, most of their kingdom is in darkness, firmly out of reach of the sun, where nothing can grow or live. The water is on the edge of freezing, the pressure so great it cannot be measured. It can feel like a fist squeezing out any possibility of hope. The key isn't life, it's the need to flourish. Death is a much more powerful tool. Down here, a blue whale's body rests. She lived 80 years free in these oceans, following whatever urges she had, and did whatever she wanted to do. She had a family, gave birth to her own, watched them grow and build theirs. She loves the feel of the sun on her skin and the cold snap of the waters below, until the day that she stopped and the waters she called home carried her down to her next one. Her body became the seed of an eternally new life cycle. In death, she became a home. They've already fed on her flesh, and when those were done, more will come. Species of life, novel even to him, will make themselves known, grow strong down here, broken down until she becomes a part of the soil, motes in the water. Her death will feed them all. Lights bright in the midst of the darkness for decades, but there is no loss in dying. It is a gift that they give to those who outlived them, to the worlds that they have always loved and the ones that they have come to love. The possibility that he will fall in this final fight, it is his own Whaleful, a final gift to them, to both worlds. His reign will be passed down to his son, Andy, one day. All of the things that he's done in this fight were to ensure that his son has a world to inherit. Being a king, or what they call a hero, none of that matters a moment compared to being a father. His son and his mother filled the world with sunlight and the music that cut through it all, enough to keep him warm wherever his new home will be. Be kind to your mother, be kind to yourself. If I cannot be here to say those things to my son, I will still gladly fall, because I cannot think of a better possible world than one with him in it. The next story is the fight for love. The night has come, and Batman watches over everyone as they make their final preparations. Have they done enough? Or are they marked to die? In this futile mission, they only have one weapon that can pierce the heart of an enemy to win the day. And as Batman stands, he feels the touch on his shoulder. He hears a voice telling him that he looks tired, and that they still have a few hours. He tells Batgirl that there's too much to do, too much to say. She's always been a leader. She sees solutions in different ways. He underestimated her in the past, and for that he is truly. But Batgirl stops him. We're already dead, aren't we? Batman says maybe, but we can still fight for the living. It's what we do. Someone might live on, someone we love, and I hope it'll be you. Gather the boys. We have time for one last Bat family meeting. Batgirl does just that, and as she gets Nightwing, he'd rather talk to her before them. There are things that he wants to get off his chest before, but she stops him and tells him that there's no need for that. She does not need to be reminded of how deeply he hurt her. Whatever he has to say, just keep it to himself. She doesn't need him throwing emotional bombs at her before the final fight. As everyone gathers, Batman says that he's going to skip to the end. The end of what's important here. Do we all have what we need to get the job done? Everyone looks at their supplies, and as they all pool their resources, Batman smiles, telling them, we are ready, except for them. Batman places his hands on both Batgirl and Nightwing's shoulders, telling them that they need to skip to the part where it's resolved, because he needs them in the headspace now. Nightwing says, fine, Barbara, marry me. Batgirl stops him. Wait, is that where you think this ends? Batman waves his hand, telling them, by the power vested in me by no one, you're married. Done. Now let's give the newlyweds some space. As they're left alone, Nightwing says, so, we have tonight. And Batgirl tells him that they could be married tonight if he wants. But it doesn't stand if they live. Nightwing says, of course, if they live, it's void. Annulled. Until he can win her back. Batgirl asks, does he really think he can? And Nightwing tells her that he hopes to have a lifetime to try. From the moment they met, she was his other half. And we end with our final tale before the final fight. The Man of Tomorrow. As Superman thinks to himself, he knows that he can't be everywhere at once, or can he? Instead of spending his time with Lois and John, saying his farewells, he's working. Even now, with all that's gone on, 7 billion people are afraid that this is their last day on Earth. Half the human race has shut down in terror and despair, and the other half has surrendered to anarchy. Choosing them and his family seems impossible, but Superman doesn't believe in the impossible. His son is back from the 31st century, his time bubbles damaged, but pieces survived. By melding them with the last samples of a few rare Kryptonian elements, he should be able to improvise a makeshift chronal device capable of sending him back in time approximately 1 hour. The world is in absolute turmoil. His friends are concentrating on providing aid and keeping the peace, controlling the moment, but he is choosing a different path. His hour is up far too soon, and there's still so much left to be done. So much that can be done. If he risks activating the time shift device again to relive the same 60 minutes, there'd be 2 of them. 2 Supermen to set an example. Not enough. What if he made it 3? In fact, until the time shifter gives out, he can keep using it 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 Supermen to lead by example. For the first and last time in his life, for 1 precious hour, he can be everywhere that he is needed. This is a job for Superman, to pull people out of their despondence, to make them feel less alone, to give them confidence in the future. And if they're going to survive this night, they have to be able to picture the sunrise. They need to believe that tomorrow will exist. They need hope. He had thousands of hours to dread this moment, but they've helped him come up with the right words. He tells them where he's going, that he doesn't expect to return, that he loves them. He tells them goodbye. So let them make the most of it. And that concludes the last stories of your favorite DC universe. Well, I guess they're assuming that. The last video that we're going to be making will be Death Metal issue 6, the last 52, which is the final fights that everyone has, and then Death Metal 7. The conclusion to this entire series. This episode turned out a lot longer than I intended. All those little mini stories took up a lot of time, but I hope you guys enjoyed us covering this tie-in series, letting you know what everyone is doing right before the final bout. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, because tomorrow is our plan for when the next episode will come out, the finale to Death Metal, and then we're going to be doing Future State, which is the follow-up. So I hope you guys are excited and ready for it, just like I am, to give it to you. And don't forget, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian, where you can go and subscribe to our Patreon and get early access to our projects if they get done on time. Sometimes they don't, a lot of times they do, and you get unedited versions of our podcasts and our D&D game and stuff like that. Either way, guys, thank you so much for your continued support, and I will see you next time right here.